Assalamualaikum, good morning and welcome to the judges, teachers, guests, and participants of the FRSIS 2022. Now, I'd like to introduce our judges today. The Chief Judge is Associate Professor Dr. Haliza Binti Harun, Senior Lecturer, University Science Islam Malaysia. The second judge is Miss Salmia Hani Binti Siddiq from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. The third judge is Miss Shafiza Binti Sharif from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani. And I, Nurul Iza Amani Binti Ghazali from Sekolah Menengah Sains Sabah, while the timekeepers Amar Daniel bin Zafrul Azmi and Muhammad Adam Aiman bin Faisal are from Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak. Now, allow me to read the rules. Each team should consist of presenters and technical assistant. The presentation must focus on the sub-team assigned to the team. The duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. I repeat, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. The bell will be rung once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. A question and answer Q&A session will be conducted after each presentation. Now, let's hear from the first team, Sekolah Tun Fatima, to present.
Ever since the shift from pandemic to endemic happened, every morning, millions of families start a daily routine like mine. Waking up in the morning, make breakfast, pack lunches, and sending their children off to school. Every day, millions of students across Malaysia are in school and learning, but at the same time, millions of other students are missing school and are left behind in classes, causing a behavioral phenomenon called student absenteeism, which is the topic for today. But before I continue, a very good morning. I bid to the panel of esteemed judges, precise timekeepers, honorable moderators and reporters, technical assistants. My name, and not to forget the audience in the room. My name is Intan Ayu Irina, and I'm Nurul Farahin. And we're from Sekolah Tun Fatima, here to present to you our topic of student absenteeism in the post-pandemic era under SDG 4, Averting a Lost COVID Generation. And without further ado, take it away, Farahin. Thank you, Ayurina. So, next slide is, okay, what is definition of absenteeism? Absenteeism is commonly defined as the number of students who miss 10% or more of school days, even for excused absences related to issues like sickness or quarantine. Absences can also be motivationally based. For example, poor relationship with other students and also academic failure. And now we're moving on structurally based, which is having to work during school hours and taking care of a family member. We're moving on to our problem statement. This is our problem statement, by the way. During the pandemic phase, student absenteeism has become a rising issue, which is the leading cause to students falling behind in lessons and directly impacting their academic standing. With that being said, this would descend the quality of our education. Now we're moving on to our objective. The objective of our study is to identify factors affecting student absenteeism and ways to reduce the rate of absenteeism. Then I will pass the mic back again to Ayurina.
Let us head on to our research stories. Here, let me introduce to you our associates in SK Gomusang in Kelantan. This is the location where we conducted our research. So a few brief introduction to them. SKGM is an elementary school located in the center of Gomusang Old Town and consists of students from preschool to year 6, aged 5 to 12 years old. So we conducted our research here, and here's the formal letter of approval and permission to conduct our research. And we here want to thank everyone from SK Gomusang, because without them, we would never actually got our research studies and case studies results without them. So next, please. Here, let's enter to our research methodology, right? Going on to measurement objectives. First, we utilize surveying methodology, and what we want to focus on is to identify the problems of student absenteeism. And next, we make sure that our results are of high validity and reliability, because the social behavior polar could not have changed drastically, because we know as we speak right now, we are still in the endemic phase, as we know. Next is data collection. No, two shapes of data collection were taken. One is through Google Forms, which we all know is one of the most accessible tool and resource to actually conduct surveys and questionnaires. We garnered around 100, more than 100 respondents, and what we focus on these surveys is about the different perspective of stakeholders in our case study. Understand that our stakeholders for our case study is none other than the students themselves, teachers, and also parents. Next, on this survey, we review commonly given excuses of student absence in order to know how rare or how often a lot of excuses were given in order for them to be absent in school. Next, next is a student interview in SKGM through the class teacher, and the respondents are none other than the students from SKGM themselves. For this one, we want to focus on the perspective of the stakeholders. Since it's an interview, it's the honest feelings of these students regarding their absence in school and understanding the feelings of the most affected stakeholders, which is the students themselves. Next slide, please. Here are the data analysis of the APDM from 2018-2022 of SKGM. What this is, what you're currently seeing right now, is actually the attendance database of the students is in SKGM. As you can see, before the pandemic started, the attendance rate were slowly decreasing. And then in 2021, which is during the lockdown where digital learning was actually in commence, the attendance rate got up. And then suddenly, when we shifted from pandemic to endemic in 2022, we can see that the attendance rate decreased drastically. This proves that student absenteeism is a topic that we should discuss in the society today. Next. And another thing, based on the survey and questionnaires that we conducted, it is given that 56% parents face financial issues in providing school supplies and resources. 47% students are bored in physical classrooms, while 77% parents are worried about their children's health at school regarding the virus themselves. You should really focus on these three aspects, because this will be the main aspects that we're going to discuss throughout our presentation. Next slide. Now, let's head on to our findings, which is going to be most causes and factors of absenteeism, the ones that we want to discover in order for us to look for a solution. First is the financial crisis. Understand that our country have been going through a pandemic of a deadly virus. And throughout that pandemic, millions of innocent lives were lost. And through this scenario, we understand that a lot of income supplier of families, such as the head of the families, are lost as well. And understand that in high poverty families, understand that these income suppliers, such as the fathers or the mothers, are clearly very important to these children in order for them to get resources, in order for them to go to school. So when these income suppliers are not here, we understand that there should be insufficient funds for these children to go to school. These lack of resources, such as uniforms, books. Do you have those, Farahin?
I have those. I had
Good thing she have those. But there is a lot of children in Malaysia who does not have that privilege. So instead, not just by the lacking of resources, they also have to take over that role of being the income supplier and go through a lot, like child labor, for example. Next one. Next, what we discovered based on our answers is that the mentality of parents. We talked about poverty, right? Now let's talk about the people who are actually privileged and have satisfactory income. About them, what stopped them from sending their children to school is that mindset of them over worrying about their children's getting that virus in the first place. So understand that right now, even if the government has already officially announced that we are in the endemic phase, still millions of parents across Malaysia are still worried about their children's health. And this is the main leading cause of why they are holding back to send their children to school, even though they themselves have paid the fees. Next. And last but not least are the learning challenges. We understand that during the whole years of digital learning, a lot of habits have been changed, especially the big shift from in-person learning to digital learning. I faced a lot of struggles trying to adjust myself to that situation. What about you, Faraheen? Is it hard to shift from learning in person?
For me personally, it's very hard for me too.
So is the children's in question. They have fatigue due to lack of sleep because we understand that during online learning, they have no rules in their homes. They have no rules like how it was in the school. And next, how it's insufficient challenge, how they do not have enough motivation to go to school, especially with the rumors of viruses going around. Next. And now I'm going to head it off to my presenter, Faraheen.
Okay, thank you so much. We have found a few solutions regarding the findings that we have discovered. So the first one is, the first solution done by the government is QAM, which is Kumpulan Wang Amanah Pelajar Miskin. Okay, the implementation of QAM in 2003 by the government has agreed to provide assistance to students from grade 1 to 6, which is in primary school, and Form 1 in secondary school, who are eligible and not afford to cover the school fees. Moving on next is to amend the existing law. So, hold on. To amend the existing law. In January 2003, our government has issued an act against parents who neglect children's registration for school. It is stated in Section 29A2 that every parent who is Malaysian citizen must ensure that their child is registered as a pupil in primary school on that year. Parents who fail to do accordingly will be fined not more than 5,000 and will be jailed not more than 6 months or both. However, parents suggested their child to school not only to avoid getting punished by the existing law, but parents failed to feel the responsibility of their child attendance to school. Thus, we strongly agree and believe that legal action should also be implemented on parents who neglect children's attendance to school. Next. Okay, our project, our team, STF team and SKGM team have collaborated together and worked hard to enhance and improve the methods of teaching by applying Piaget's theory and Pavlov's theory. So, Piaget's theory of cognitive development suggests that intelligence changes as children grow. Piaget's theory proposes stages of development which are based on different age group of children. But our study focused on concrete operational stage where children aged 7 to 11 years old think much logically if they can manipulate real materials through hands-on working. And so for Pavlov's theory is where learning has become a stimulus with a particular reaction or response. Human behaviors is developed by habits we pick up in response to certain situations that constantly happens in life. The slide before this, Ken? The slide before this. So these are the activities that we have held, which is Dress Me Up, Spelling Bee, and Cherry Berry Chiller. It's so fun, right? Moving on next. Next. Last but not least, this is our project outcomes. As you can see here, there's a very obvious gap between from May to September. So I'm going to show you. The graph shows that the attendance of year 1 to year 3 students has been increasing from June to September. From May to June, as you can see, it has increased by 2%. From June to July, it has increased by 5%, which is 85. And we accomplished to maintain the attendance of students in July and August. And surprisingly, guys, it's so surprising actually. And surprisingly, the attendance of students has increased by 6% on September.
which is 91%. So this shows that our project has contributed big changes from May to September when attendance of students has increased by 11%. Thus, it has reduced the rate of absenteeism in SKGM. Now we're moving on next. I'll pass the baton to Irina again.
So it proves that our project actually fulfills what we want to do in the first place for FRSIS, which is to reduce the rate of student absenteeism in SKGM. Next, I question you. Do you want to live in a world where student absenteeism skyrocketed as test scores dropped?
No, I don't.
I don't. It's scary to think about it. We know that in Malaysia, there is a lot of potential children ready to go to school and is capable of doing a lot of things to the country. So we want to conclude our presentation with hoping that right now, a lot of other people and a lot of parents, teachers, and also students open their minds, and together we tackle a student absenteeism as a whole. And with that, I've never been prouder to rest our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For now, I would like to invite the participants and the audiences to ask questions. Please be reminded that only 2 questions are allowed.
Assalamualaikum. Hello. My name is Damia from College Islam Sultan Alam Shah. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. However, I'd like to ask your research. It focuses on primary students, right? So, do you have a solution for secondary students for us?
Actually, our focus is on primary students, so we haven't come up with any solution for another age stage. So,
And right now, understand that based on the theme of averting a lost COVID generation, we understand that secondary students or university students, they have been matured and they have this specific mindset to go to school in order for them with all these academic pressures. Why we focus specifically on primary students or more children who are more younger is because their life choices are more influenced by their parents or adults surrounding them. That's why we focus on primary students in order for us to guide these children in order to avert a lost COVID generation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot my question. Okay, I have 2 questions, right? The first one is, because you did not give any literature regarding absenteeism, so I just wonder, based on your readings, what would be the similarity of what you found, the findings, as well as from your readings? That is one question. The other question is that, based on your results, there were an increase in terms of attendance, right? So, based on the, I think, 3 factors that you gave, the mentality of the parents and so on, right? Which do you think, or I mean, which one was actually being reduced that resulted in the students going to schools again? Because you did not really mention on that. Thank you.
For the similarities between our findings and our readings, we have found that a lot of readings and common elements about student absenteeism, it's mostly about chronic absenteeism, where students miss 10% of schools, either with logical excuse or unlogical excuse. And what we found similar with our findings is that these students, through the student interviews, they themselves admitted that some of their absent excuses were actually the same with what our readings were, which how they do not care that much in order for them to go to school. So those are like one of the most similar things we found. And then next, regarding about the attendance in SKGM on how it skyrocketed, right, is that the most prominent factors we saw is that these students themselves, we had to change the mindset of these students in order to make school fun for them. Because just like how my friend here presented about the Pavlov's theory and all these theories, we have found that these children are actually influenced a lot by hands-on material in school. That's why most of our projects does not really cater towards students cramped up in the classroom. We can see that there were outdoor activities, right? So these activities actually enhance their excitement and motivation in order for them to go to school. So we noticed that the biggest, for our team especially, the biggest challenge is for us to actually invite these children to go to school, because at that age, they are really heavily influenced by adults' opinions and decisions making for them. All right.
I do have two questions. If you can be specific, why did you choose SKGM for your subject specifically? Because you are from STF, right, in Johor? Second question, I can't help but notice that you mentioned about legal action against parents. You see, SKGM, as you notice, and I'm sure that you know, most of parents who neglect sending their children to school are coming from poor families. Is it right or proper or appropriate even to take legal action, like you said, fine 5,000 ringgit or jail time? So why was that in your suggestion just now? Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam, for a beautiful questions. So, answering your first question, why do we choose SKGM instead of schools in Johor Bahru? Okay, the answer is because we have a relation with SKGM, which is one of the English panel teacher is our
Close associate.
yes, and we decided to select SKGM as our case study focus because data from APDM will be easily
Access.
yes because we have the
Resource from them.
we have the resource from SKGM. Yes.
The second question was, about legal action, right? This was heavily influenced by our findings, where our findings a lot have been, what they were implementing is about, the most simple solution a lot of people gave was like home visits, porch visits, where the staffs from the school themselves visit the homes of these children that been absent a lot. So understand that right now, why we want to implement this legal action is because we want to focus on a lot of perspective and a lot of groups. So the amended existing laws is that to make sure that the community in Malaysia are aware why this is a serious problem in the first place. Because evidence shows that the law that said, the law about that will sue or fine parents who ignore enrollments of their children to school, they are aware of that law. That's why a lot of parents actually enroll their students to school. But then when it comes to our problem, why they enroll the school just to ignore that law, then they ignore another problem, which is not sending their students to school as a whole. So understand that why we do that is to actually tackle this next problem that we see in the journey. Thank you so much.
The Q&A session now has ended. Thank you, first sentence from Sekolah Tun Fanima for the interesting presentation. Assalamualaikum, good afternoon and welcome to the judges, teachers, guests, and participants of the FRSIS 2022. Now, I'd like to introduce the judges today. The chief judge is Associate Professor Dr. Haliza binti Harun, Senior Lecturer, University Science Islam Malaysia. The second judge is Miss Salmiahani binti Siddiq from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. The third judge is Miss Shafiza binti Sharif from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani. And I, Nurul Iza Amani binti Ghazali from Sekolah Menengah Sains Sabah, while the timekeepers Amar Daniel bin Zafrul Azmi and Muhammad Adam Aiman bin Faisal are from Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak. Now, allow me to read the rules. Each team should consist of presenters and technical assistant. The presentation must focus on the sub-team assigned to the team. The duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. I repeat, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. The bell will be rung once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. So presenters, please try to wrap up the presentation by the 9th minute. A question and answer Q&A session will be conducted after each presentation for 5 minutes only. Now, I would like to invite Sekolah Menengah Sains Jelly to present.
The COVID-19 pandemic is the worst thing that could have happened to us, right? It has so many negative impact on education system. Schools are being shut down. Teachers and students are forced to include in the online education system. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lukman Afif.
And my name is Nurin Alifah Shifa binti Muhammad Najmi.
We are from Sekolah Menengah Sains Jeli. We'll proudly present to you our research study. Sub-team given to us was Sub-team 4, averting a lost COVID generation, the challenges in the education system. Which brings us to the title of today's presentation, the lockdown. How did it affect your education? Here are a problem statement. Number 1, how has the pandemic lockdown affected students' academic performance? Number 2, how effective was the teaching method used during the lockdown? And number 3, which teaching method is more effective, traditional classes or online classes? Before we start, let me give you the definition of some of the words that we will use during this presentation. Number 1, online classes are classes where all teaching and learning are conducted online via various apps such as Telegram and Google Classroom. Number 2, traditional classes are classes where all teaching and learning are conducted in person and in class. And number 3, academic achievement is a measurement of students' understanding of subject using examinations. The objective of this research are to analyze academic achievement before and after the pandemic lockdown and to identify the main factors that affect academic performance of students. The significance of study are as follows. Do students realize that the lockdown has affected their academic achievement? Number 2, do students manage to overcome these problems by themselves during online classes? And number 3, do teachers know the key of ensuring students' results stays excellent during the lockdown? The benefits of the research are, number 1, better preparation for students and teachers. Number 2, we are able to assess students' understanding during online lecturing. Number 3, we can encourage student-centered learning. And lastly, we can enable effective online learning. We use 2 methods to conduct this research. One is a questionnaire for students and the other one is interview of teachers. For the survey, data were collected from 142 students, which we chose students as they are on the receiving end of this crisis. 52.1% of them were female, 47.9% of them were male. They age between 15 to 17 years old and they have diverse socio-cultural, socio-economic, educational, and disciplinary background. The results of the questionnaire are as follows. For question 1, do online classes affect students' academic performance? The majority of them says yes. They also mentioned that not all topics were discussed the same as in-person classes, and the learning environment was entirely different from traditional classes. Moving on to question 2. Did internet connection affect students' class studies? Again, the majority of students answered yes. They say that having poor internet connections means that they can join these classes consistently. Moving on to question 3. Do you prefer online classes than face-to-face classes? This time, majority of students answered no. They also mentioned that they have lost their motivation early in the stages as online classes tend to have packed schedule. This, coupled with sharing devices among family members and the almost non-existence of virtual study groups, makes it difficult for them to keep up with the learning. And the last question is question 4. Do online classes make students' group work become harder? Again, the majority of students answered no. They say that students can cooperate well online as they are familiar with communication apps such as WhatsApp and Telegram. But still, some of them answered yes. They mentioned that they are still unfamiliar with educational apps such as Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Jamboard. Now I'm going to pass this to my fellow presenter.
Okay, thank you, Lukman. So moving on to the second methodology, the interview. Data were collected from 4 teachers, which 2 of them are from the urban area and the other 2 are from the rural area in Malaysia. So let's see the results of the interview. Question number 1. How were students' academic performance before the COVID-19 lockdown? And question number 2. How were students' academic achievement after the lockdown and why? For the first respondent of the urban area, the teacher said students' academic performance before the COVID-19 lockdown were outstanding. And after the COVID-19 lockdown, students' results maintained and increased after the COVID-19 lockdown. This is because the students and teachers have good internet connection, which allow them to enjoy the classes. Second, the teacher used fun application to attract the students' interest in online learning. And last, the students tend to be more active during online classes because we know not all students love face-to-face classes and they are not confident in face-to-face classes. For the first respondent of the rural area, the teacher says students' academic performance before the COVID-19 were great. And after the COVID-19 lockdown, the students' academic achievement were excellent. This is because teachers got to approach the student by house-to-house visit strategy and also handout exercises, which help the students a lot in online learning. And also the family support, which is important for students' mental health and also motivation during online classes. Moving on to the second respondent of the urban area, the teachers state that students' academic performance before the COVID-19 lockdown were good, but after the COVID-19 lockdown, the students did not achieve the teacher-specific goals. This is because some of the students gave no commitment at all during online classes, and the students also experienced a lot of distractions, maybe like online game addictions and also social media addiction, where it causes them to have lack of time management. And for the second respondent of the rural area, the teachers state that students achieve teachers' goals before the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. And after the COVID-19 lockdown, the students did not achieve school-specific target. This is because students have problem in internet coverage, where it causes them to get no focus at all in online classes, and also some students losing track, which works for the teachers to start back from zero to keep the students back in track. So, every problem have its own solutions. So we came up with some solutions based on the questionnaire. For students, try to seek help and also share information or opinion with each other on social medias. For teachers, avoid using usual apps and use interesting app to attract the students so students can enjoy online classes learning while playing. And for government, provide more educational channel on television. Based on the interview, we came up with solutions too. For the students, give commitment and also adapt with the new norm, because students should know their responsibility, what they need to do during online classes. And teachers learn and keep updated with current technology so they can run the online classes smoothly and also make the online classes effective for the students. For government also can organize annual mental health awareness program because most of us were affected during COVID-19 lockdown. So when we came up with solution, it doesn't mean that there's no program or activities by the government and the teachers to encourage students and support the teachers. So the programs by the government throughout the pandemic and endemic era is YTL, learn from home activities, and also DD TV. Next. Initiative by government by giving free tablet for underprivileged family and providing transportation for students that thrive in their school institutions. Next, programs by educational institutions, to name some of them, such as Math Clinic Plus and PTTI Online. Next, there's also announcement about daily free data by government, so the students can enjoy online classes. Next, lastly, involvement of government leaders. For instance, Yang Berhormat Syed Sadiq Syed Abdul Rahman delivered laptops to students in Muar Parliament through the One Family, One Laptop programs around Muar.
Based on the finding, we can conclude that online learning systems has many shortcomings not limited to the problem that we have listed. However, this system is still relatively new and has improved beyond leaps and bounds throughout the years that it was implemented. It has become norm in our society education. It also has multiple upsides. One of them being fixed curriculum and subject choices are gone due to students demanding more freedom in their education. And the biggest hurdle that they need to overcome is to replicate the in-person efficiency and creating an immersive learning experience for students. Here are the future plans for our research. We are focusing on widening the scope to include university students. We are also going to suggest some ways to improve online classes and determining the effectiveness of hybrid classes. That is all from our presentation today.
For now, I would like to invite the audiences and judges to ask questions.
Hello and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Zarif from College Islam Sultan Alam Shah, and that presentation was great, by the way. But I have I have one question to ask you guys, which is about you guys saying that the government should implement more educational channels, right? So as we all know, the TV is already there, but even with it, not all students watch each sessions. And from my experience, my siblings who are also students get bored easily and don't have enough time to watch it because they have like homeworks and assignments to do. So can you guys elaborate more on how the government implementing more education channels will create a drastic change in students' academic performance?
Okay, in this solution, we are focusing on more in the rural area because in rural area we didn't have internet connection that good for the students. So online educational channel on television really helpful for our rural area. So is it clear?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, just now you mentioned that one of the solution is learn and adapt with the current technology. And like I see that from your presentation that giving laptops, giving gadgets to students in the urban and rural areas, those are good programs. But my question is, how sure are you that the students in the urban or rural areas, they can learn and adapt the new technology?
For the students to adapt with the current technology, I think like for this, the government or the school can provide classes for the students to adapt with the technologies. The classes will somehow help the students to use the current technologies and also maybe the teachers that want to learn in current technologies. Am I answering your question? Okay, thank you.
Hello. I have one question. In your last slide, there's a word hybrid classes. Personally, how prepared is your school to adapt to hybrid classes in the future? Because it is under future plans.
So personally, our school are still not prepared, but have taken some initiatives to prepare for it. For example, we have installed television in some of the upper form classes and some of the key rooms in our school. Have I answered it?
The Q&A session now has ended. Thank you, presenters from Sekolah Menengah Sains Jelly, for the fascinating presentation. Assalamualaikum, good afternoon and welcome to the judges, teachers, guests and participants of the FRSIS 2022. Now, I'd like to introduce our judges today. The chief judge is Associate Professor Dr. Haliza binti Harun, Senior Lecturer, University Science Islam Malaysia. The second judge is Miss Sarmia Hani binti Siddiq from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. The third judge is Miss Shafiza binti Sharif from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani. And I, Nurul Iza Amani binti Ghazali from Sekolah Menengah Sains Sabah, while the timekeepers Amar Daniel bin Zafrul Azmi and Muhammad Adam Aiman bin Fazal are from Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak. Now, allow me to read the rules. Each team should consist of presenters and technical assistant. The presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned to the team. The duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. I repeat, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. The bell will be rung once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. A question and answer Q&A session will be conducted after each presentation. Now, I would like to invite College Islam Sultan Alam Shah to present.
Testing, test. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Have you ever okay. Have you ever procrastinated on a task for so long that you sent it exactly on the due date at 12 a.m. on the dot? I mean, we have. Not everyone realizes that the COVID-19 pandemic has left us with a scar, not only in terms of health, but also academically. However, the question is, what initiatives can be taken to solve this issue? Now, before we jump in, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to the honorable judges, the master of ceremony, the meticulous timekeepers, the respected teachers, and my fellow participants. It is a great honor for me to stand here alongside my teammates representing
Sultan Alam Shah Islamic College.
First, let me introduce you to two of our beloved teachers. They are Madam Mohana Kala and Mr. Zamri Shah. Now, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Damya, and I act as the presenter for this group. Moving on to our second presenter.
Thank you, Damya. Hello, and how is everyone? I am Zarif as the team's technical assistant, and I am delighted to be presenting with my very best friend here today.
You're most welcome. For our moderator, we have the incredible Arif and the one and only Hadijah as our amazing rapporteur. Zarif, can you explain just a bit more on what our topic is about today?
All right, Damya. Now, everyone here, lend your ears and listen carefully. COVID-19 hit us very hard. For about 2 consecutive years, we have been learning through online platforms. But then, gradually, schools began to reopen due to the change from a pandemic phase to an endemic phase. But this has caused students to struggle because they are not ready yet to adapt to all of this.
And as we all know, schools are the providers of essential learning. But when the providers themselves close, how can students have the opportunities to grow and develop? Not only that, students also have to face social isolation.
This is because schools are hubs for social activities and human interactions. School closures only lead to students missing out on social contact, which is essential for development and learning. This will affect students like loss of social skills, lack of confidence, and many more.
Without any doubt, these are the undeniable facts that we need to swallow. Moving on to our theory. See, the problem right now is basically that students have lost their motivation to study. Because of this, they do not want to engage in school or any educational activities. Let me elaborate further on the meaning of student engagement. Firstly, it could refer to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught. Secondly, it could also be referred to as how school leaders, educators, and other adults might engage students more fully in the governance and decision-making processes in school. For instance, we have school-supported volunteer programs or any number of potential student-led groups.
Yes, with both of the meanings being under our considerations, we decided to create a campaign that can give a positive influence to our students on both aspects. But how do we make sure that a campaign will be successful?
See, that's a good question. Well, firstly, a campaign must be noticed by others using the appropriate media channels to reach the targeted group. Secondly, a campaign must be persuasive as when experienced by the targeted group. And finally, a campaign must be remembered, where it is seen often enough for the group to be recalled.
I fully agree with all of that. To add on, we also have research for proof to visualize our theory. Local news and the Straits Times also have made an article about school closures, how COVID-19 has affected students around the world because schools were interrupted.
However, before we dive deeper into our topic, you should know our purpose and aim for the study that we have conducted. Well, the purpose is to propose an educational event in order to help students get back on track in their studies.
And therefore, the study school is to create a campaign that will pick the interest of current and future generations in order to help them find their life passion. By the way, what evolutionary methods did we use for planning this campaign right away?
Why do you keep forgetting things? We recently conducted a survey via Google Forms, from which we have gained a staggering amount of 214 responses from students all around the globe. The responses were analyzed and utilized in order to produce beneficial activities that will be done in the campaign. And however, schools have reopened And as we all know, this year, FRSIS was organized with the main theme of From Pandemic to Endemic. And our team was assigned with a sub-theme that is associated with the SDG 4, Quality Education. Now, about our campaign, what was it called again?
Whoa, 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 hold on. We, as a team, have reached a consensual agreement to name our campaign Fly Our Youth, Healing Our Wounds with the slogan So Higher, We Will Be Your Wings. Our team has implemented numerous entertaining programs in our campaign to ensure the abundance of students' participation and provide them with high quality learning. The campaign will take place at schools and community centers of cities and towns, and since we cater for students of all ages, the participants will range from primary, secondary, and tertiary school students. The discussed time spent for our campaign is estimated to be around 6 years annually, around 5 to 6 months per year.
But Zarif, how do we corroborate the relevance of our campaign to today's post-COVID generation?
Of course, we need to acquire approvals for other parties. One of them is the Associate Professor of the Department of Mechanical Engineering at UPNM and a Petronas Service Dealer. This further proves that our campaign will be the completion of the puzzle piece to avert the lost COVID generation.
All right, carrying on, let's look at this pie chart. Do you see that huge blue segment that completely overwhelms the pie chart over there? This is where our problem statement comes in, wherein school closures have incited negative outcomes for students. However, schools have reopened as the disease has ceased. People thought this would shine a new light on today's education, but no, it has only caused students to have less confidence and lack any social skills.
Oh gosh, that seems like a horror story. On another pie chart we have over here, 92.5% of the respondents we got were from Malaysian students, while the other 7.5% were from international students who were interested in joining our campaign. Even though it looks insignificant to others, it means little to us as we now know that at least we can spread the benefit around the globe. As the saying goes, little things make big things happen.
And as you can see here, the most negative impact voted by students was that they were having difficulty in managing time, whereas the second most negative impact was that they lacked any social skills.
From this bar graph, it shows the list of activities that students are willing to participate in. Basically, Damya, what are these programs and activities that we keep emphasizing about? The audience seems very clueless.
Well, let me elaborate on a few of them. Let's look at the first one, educational or motivational talks by students. The students will be the ones giving out the speeches, while other students will listen and take notes during the whole session. From this program, we want to promote critical-based thinking and cultivate communication skills. Ah yes, workshops. These workshops range from a variety of aspects, including basic humanitarian skills to more academically inclined subjects. These workshops not only teach students about the school standard syllabus, but also provide knowledge on survival skills and teamwork. Not just that, we have the Board Games Festival. From this session, we want students to interact with each other freely, without stress, while playing these educational board games. This is guaranteed to improve their social skills and increase their knowledge. Last but not least, we have creative journaling sessions. This will improve their interest to write educational notes based on their preferences. This will absolutely help them in their studies, maybe even unleash their artistic side.
Wow, there are so many more than just that. Moving onwards. Based on our survey, most students prefer to have this campaign done offline, or even both, offline and online. Next, most students agree with the involvement of school management in our campaign. We took these into account as we constructed the campaign. We then asked if they believe that this campaign will assist them in their studies, and the answers given show that the majority of respondents agree with us, which is why we want to bring this favorable campaign to life.
Lastly, the number of respondents that are willing to participate are mostly on the scale of 8 to 10. This shows the probability of students to participate in our campaign will be more on the higher side. But Zarif, launching this campaign is no easy task. How do we make sure that people know our campaign exists?
Well, certainly through social media platforms such as Instagram and Twitter, as well as distributing posters and brochures to the community.
I'm quite curious on how we keep students interested after joining the campaign.
We'll not make it an obligation for students to join just because they're being registered under the school name, but rather as an activity they choose to participate wholeheartedly.
Then how will we get financial support for our campaign?
Well, we'll write a convincing proposal to NGOs or schools that are able to fund us. In our proposal, we will request some funding in the form of grant and endorsement on promoting education, plus our solution on helping students.
Then how will we contact professionals?
We could do so through social media, contact them through emails, and propose to them about our campaign. And then the talks and meetings they're going to attend are going to have a massive impact on students.
Wow, that sounds great. But now I guess the audience is wondering, why choose our campaign? Here's why. Because we, as organizers, we are very committed and focused on a specific goal. Our campaign will be held both locally and internationally, because that way we can get to know the problems that students in other countries are facing, compared to most of our competitors who only focus on helping local students. Not just that, we offer a bundle of activities that will help students gain motivation in learning. Our campaign will be held both offline and online to ensure all students' participation, no matter if they have access to electronic devices and the internet or not.
And don't forget everyone, our campaign is post-COVID focused, which is now very relatable to the current situation in our daily lives. Our campaign will be held for a long time to ensure the effectiveness of our campaign, besides giving time for us and the participants to see the development they have gone through by joining us.
We truly believe that executing this campaign will have a tremendous effect on students. Almost every activity we conduct can help students find their motivation to study and find their hidden talents. Not just that, the progression of their academics will be way better from before, as they now have all the essentials they need to study.
Before we say our goodbyes, there is one last thing I would like to explain to you all, is that our campaign, Fly Our Youth, Healing Our Wounds, focuses solely on holistic learning, where we establish a stable core cues, which are intelligence quotient, emotional quotient, social quotient, and intelligence quotient. By stabilizing these 4 cues, we could help increase the level of motivation in each students.
This is our page of references. Most of our basic information is shown from these sources. Now, I truly appreciate the opportunity to stand here today. Remember, everyone, soar higher.
We will be your wings.
Thank you all so much.
For now, I would like to invite the audiences and judges to ask questions.
Hello, I'm Ime from SBPI Gombak. So I want to ask, how did you distribute your questionnaire?
By Google Forms.
Okay.
Oh, no, I mean, oh no. Like internationally, because some of us have online friends, students we interact with from Instagram and Twitter. So we decided to spread the Google Forms like to our friends from other SBPs and also internationally.
And as you all know, there are lots of social medias out there, such as one of the famous one that even I have, Discord, Twitter, like Instagram, WhatsApp. And through that, we send links of our Google Form and distribute it to all of our friends who are students in the range of students. And so they answer those, and so we analyze and utilize those answers given.
Hello, wonderful presentation, by the way, but please enlighten my curiosity. Your program and campaign looks very big, and I wonder, where do you guys get the assistance through in the aspects of money and the budget to actually conduct all these activities? Please.
Okay, so from your question, we did said that for financial funding, we will write a convincing proposal to NGOs or schools to fund us. So first, as a test for this particular program, for this particular campaign, we actually did this campaign at our school. That means we did a mock-up for our campaign, and so many teachers and many students give us positive reviews about this campaign, and some even implement those in our class. And with those, some of the teachers and even our principal decided to fund our campaign. So with that, it shows that how our campaign influenced those people, how they influenced the teachers and the principal to see that how effective our campaign is to raise the image of that school. And so if let's say we implement this to other schools, it will make them, it's a very great campaign. It's a very effective to all students. So yeah, they will fund the campaign through schools and NGOs. And we're not going to just solely rely on NGOs or schools. That means not only one school or NGOs, that means lots of schools. Yeah.
The Q&A session now has ended. Thank you, College Islam Sultan Alam Shah, for the fascinating presentation.
Peace be open to all of you, and a very beautiful afternoon. I wholeheartedly welcome all the judges, teachers, and fellow participants of 10th Fully Residential Schools International Symposium 2022. To begin with, I am respectfully want to introduce our honorable judges for our today's session. Our Chief Judge, Associate Professor Dr. Haliza Harun, Senior Lecturer of University Science Islam Malaysia. The second judge is Miss Salmia Hani binti Sidik from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. The third judge is Miss Shafizah binti Sharif from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani. And I, Ahmad Amir bin Ahmad Fasilah from Tapah Science School, while the exact timekeepers are Amar Daniel bin Safrul Azmi and Muhammad Adam Aiman bin Faisal. Both of them are from Sekolah Menengah Sains Abdul Razak. Without further ado, allow me to read all the rules. First and foremost, each team should consist of presenters and technical assistants. Then, the presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned to the team. Next, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. For your information, the bell will ring once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. I repeat, the bell will ring once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. And lastly, a question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation. And now, I would like to welcome Sekolah Menengah Sains Kubang Pasu to deliver their thoughts. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to fellow judges, teachers, and friends. My name is Ainur Shakira binti Idris from Kubang Pasu Science School, standing here as your presenter. First of all, I would like to welcome to our new friend from other countries. Without further ado, let me start our introduction today. We're introducing our team. Our team's name is Sirius. We chose this name based on two things. It is because our team last year, named Andromeda, we decided to continue using the same theme, the outer space. Secondly, it is because it is same to our motivation, that is hope to shine brightly. As for our teacher in charge, it's Mr. Sobir bin Hamza, who has guided us tirelessly in during making this presentation into a reality.
Now, let's move on to our sub-theme 4, Averting the Last COVID Generation, the Challenges. For our topic of study, we decided to assess a student's attitude and emotions towards school opening after COVID-19 pandemic in our school, Kubang Pasu Science School. Our introductions begins with school closure caused by a rapid increase in the number of cases of coronavirus. For your information, school closure in Malaysia started on 12 March 2019, and a week later, on 18 March 2019, Movement Control Order, or MCO, started due to a COVID-19 outbreak at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. As school closure was delayed, as school opening was delayed, Online learning became a medium of learning for most part of the world. For everyone concerned, there were abundant of issues to assess to digital education, such as problem with the internet infrastructure, insufficient of electronic devices, and lack of communications. This have caused a decrease in students' mental health, such as depressions, anxiety, and continuous burnout. According to World Health Organization, WHO, mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to the community. It is an integral component of health and well-being that underpins our individual and collective abilities to make decisions and build relationships. A theory from Perrin in 2011 called emotional progress that are linked to either emotions during the activities or its consequences. Study reveals that academic emotions were remarkably associated with students' enthusiasm, self-regulation, learning strategies, cognitive resources, and academic achievement, as well as class experience and character. Positive emotions broaden the circle of human thinking, such as spreading creativity, curiosity, and bonding with others. On the other hand, negative emotions are motivational sources for self-defense, feeling guilty, anger, and sadness.
As for our literature reviews, I'm starting with a quote from UNICEF 2020 say that uneven access to digital learning resource and parental support are amplifying the digital divide and inequalities among young people. While from Miller 2010 said that students' grades didn't decline during the pandemic, but their interaction with each other decreased remarkably. As for another one from Mira Marizadeh, 2020 said that COVID-19 forces school closure, making the school to use another alternative way to help the student by using a distant teaching method. And from Girija 2020, say that introvert students prefer e-learning. And from Petroto 2020, said that lack of facilities and internet access has caused a severe problem to the student. Lack of devices lead to loss of education are one of the reasons for the student to fall behind and their learning to be affected. For our issues and problem statement, I will continue with UNICEF 2020 said that studies indicate that children and school are not the main drivers of the e-pandemic across the countries. While from Mira Marizadeh 2020, who quote that absent from academic and educational environment can affect the student behavior and emotion towards education, given the facts of the positive and negative attitude toward the student. The study indicates to see whether the student's attitude towards opening school after school closure.
Now, let me explain about our research. We used a sample size about 150 students, 60 years old from Kubang Pasu Science School. We handed out 16 years old. We handed out a questionnaire adapted from Achievement Emotions Questionnaire, AEQ, from Perrin in 2011. The responses were based on Likert Scale Score and consisted of completely agree, no opinion, disagree, and completely disagree. We analyzed it and we used a descriptive statistic. The score for positive and negative emotions are then separated. Then we evaluate and added up the score for each section. The score regarding the positive emotions are range from 26 to 49 and negative emotions are range from 15 to 55. Male and female students who gave positive emotions are 85/65 and 49/101 respectively. As a result, we conclude that students prefer prefer physical class compared to online class. Our findings Our findings demonstrate a satisfactory level of students' emotions towards regarding education and learning. This indicates that despite the imposed situations, students show enthusiasm towards learning and education. Our suggestion is to design a proper framework for students' academic improvement and activity during the global health crisis and social distancing period.
As for our references came from different sources, we took from background 2011, measuring emotion in students' learning and performance, the Achievement Emotion Questionnaire (AQ), a contemporary educational psychology 36, and from background 2002, academic emotions in students' self-regulated learning and achievement, a program of qualitative and quantitative research. Educational Psychologist 37. That's all from us, and we hope that you guys enjoy our presentation. And we are glad that we can share our knowledge with others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, presenter, for your beneficial talk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the question and answer session. Let's hear some exciting questions from the audiences. For sure, only 2 questions are allowed.
Sure. All right. I'll ask one question. I'm not so sure about other judges. They might ask. They might have another question. Okay. So the first question is that I forgot my question. The first question is that based on your findings, right? How does the findings conclude whatever you have? What do you call initially? Were interested to find out in terms of your research objectives, right? You have your research objectives and you have your findings. So what can you conclude from your findings, and is it directly, answering your research objectives, right? That's one. I have another one. Another question is, what were the challenges that you faced in collecting the data, right? Because there are about 200, is it? 150, all right, 100 plus girls, little more, less than the guys, right? Okay, so 2 questions.
Thank you for the question. So the first question is, what is the question again? I'm so sorry.
I remember the question. All right, so you have your research aims or your research objectives, and you have your findings, right? So what can you conclude from your findings, right? What can you conclude from your findings? That is one question, a sub question, right? And how does that relate to your initial objectives before you embark into the study, right? You have some sort of objectives. So how does that finding also the conclusion that you make, right? Which is better, and so on. How would that achieve whatever objective that you have when you wanted to embark into this research? That was my question.
So what can we conclude from our finding?
Yes.
What can we conclude from our finding that most of students in our school, Kubapasu Science School, preferred face-to-face classes compared to online classes. For the second question, the challenges. The first challenge is to measure the amount of, how do you say, to count the to
count the
Calculate the
reaction from
answer,
each
yes.
student, and female and male are separated for easier measurement. That's why we separate their gender by gender so that we can count them. The responses is much more easier. And based on the responses, we can see that from there were completely either I completely agree, disagree. That's their responses. We took it and evaluated the scores by using the reaction so that we can know whether they prefer physical class or rather online classes.
Okay, so back to the other sub-question in my question number 1. How does that finding that you found can be related, right? I'm trying to find a very simplified explanation question, or I'm rephrasing. So how does that finding meet the objective whereby you were looking for assessing students' attitudes and emotion, right?
Yeah.
So how does that link to the emotion aspect that you would like to study? Before you embark into the investigation itself, right? That was your research objective. So how does that finding link to that emotion or the attitudes itself?
The questionnaire that we hand out to the student, the example of that question is like, do you like being in class? Do you like being in online class or face-to-face class? How do you feel when you're in class, whether it's online class or physical class? So what do we want to find is whether students are more comfortable in physical or online classes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. Therefore, our Q&A session has ended. Thanks a lot for your consideration. Peace be upon to all of you and a very beautiful afternoon. I wholeheartedly welcome all the judges, teachers, and fellow participants of 10th Fully Residential Schools International Symposium 2022. To begin with, I am respectfully want to introduce our honorable judges for today's session. Our Chief Judge, Professor Dr. Haliza Harun, Senior Lecturer of University Science Islam Malaysia. The second judge is Miss Salmia Hani binti Sidik from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. The third judge is Miss Shafizah binti Sharif from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani, and I, Ahmad Amirul Mukmin bin Ahmad Fadzila from Tapah Science School. While the exact timekeepers are Ahmad Daniel bin Zafrul Azmi and Muhammad Adam Aiman bin Faizal. Both of them are from Sekolah Datuk Abdul Razak. Without further ado, follow me to read all the rules. First and foremost, each team should consist of presenters and technical assistants. Then, the presentation must focus on the sub-team assigned to the team. Next, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. For your information, the bell will ring once at the 9th minutes and twice at the 10th minutes. I repeat, the bell will ring once at 9 minutes and twice at the 10 minutes. And lastly, a question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation. And now, I would like to welcome Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gombak to deliver their thoughts. The floor is yours.
Fellow audience, imagine someone with very limited access to the digital world at this age and day. This alarming situation faced by the Orang Asli community has not been talked about enough. However, we are now here to educate you about this issue. Hello and Assalamualaikum, I bid to honorable judges, meticulous timekeepers, members of the floor. Today we have gathered for FRSIS 2022, in which my team will be presenting about the post-pandemic challenges faced by the Orang Asli community in Gombak in receiving quality education. Before we begin, I would like to introduce you to our team. So the one speaking right now is Nurin Jazlina, and I will be presenting with Ime Zakwan. The two comrades there are Najmi and Zahira. Without wasting any more time, let us dive into the background study of this research. So ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia's Ministry of Education has declared that starting from 4th of April 2022, all learning process can be done physically after 2 years of inconsistent physical school closure. Prior to this situation, people believe that this may be an opening to a better education. Nevertheless, it is not that easy in averting lost COVID generation, as there are some challenges rising during the post-pandemic era. Now, let me enlighten you about the main character of our research, which is the Orang Asli community. So, Orang Asli in Peninsular Malaysia consists of several tribes, namely Negrito, Melayu Proto, and Senoy. Whereas Orang Asli in Gombak specifically, majority are from the groups Semelai, Jakun, and Temuan. So why do we choose Orang Asli as our focus? Ladies and gentlemen, Orang Asli is regarded as a minority in our country, which are often overlooked by society. Therefore, we wish to highlight their education, as not many acknowledge the significance of this particular community. Second of all, our research area, Gombak, consists of high population of Orang Asli students. Gombak consists of 0.4% of Orang Asli students in secondary schools, and that makes them about 491 students in total.
Now for the problem statement. The problem that gave rise to our research is, what are the challenges, the difficulties that these Orang Asli students are facing in receiving quality education during this post-pandemic era? Now, for ladies and gentlemen, there are two main goals that we aim to achieve today. The first is to unveil the challenges these Orang Asli students are facing currently, and second, to suggest some solutions that may help them in their education. Now, let's hear what others have to say about the education of this community. The first is from Muhammad Adnan and his colleagues. They stated in 2021 that even though the government has aided the Orang Asli community, their academic achievements is still poor compared to other ethnics in Malaysia. And another view from Velu and his teammates stated in 2021 that the current educational curriculum and syllabus were designed for modern era teachings, however, ignoring the assimilation of Orang Asli culture. Moving on to research methodology. We've employed both qualitative and quantitative methods in our research. As for the qualitative research, we've interviewed 9 Orang Asli students and 5 teachers from SMK Sungai Pusu to acknowledge their opinions on the problems this Orang Asli community are facing right now. And for the quantitative methods, we've distributed online questionnaires specifically for Orang Asli students to 15 different secondary schools in Gombak. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now dive deeper into our research topic and understand the challenges that they are facing right now. The first is their geographical location. In the questionnaire that we conducted, a total of 75% of students out of 60 students agree that their residents are far away from their school. The far away is more than 10 kilometers. So a student we've interviewed even claimed that she lives in Batu 16, which is 22 kilometers away from the school SMK Sungai Pusu. Not only that, every morning, these students will walk from their homes to the bus stops near the area as they go to school by bus. However, their attendance rate will drop on rainy days because they couldn't walk to the bus stops. This causes them to be demotivated to go to school due to the inconvenience and poor transport system. The second is poverty. Previous research has underlined the poverty of orang asli community, but this problem has yet to be solved. In our interview with 9 orang asli students, all of them stated that they are from the B40 income group, which is less than 2,850 ringgit. Poverty is often associated with the orang asli students' dropout rates and absenteeism, as they tend to skip schools or even drop out to help their families find money. So next is lack of awareness. The majority of orang asli students stop their education level at primary school mainly because they aren't exposed enough on the importance of education. Moreover, their parents aren't prioritizing education and thinks that these students should help their families find money. And another student we've interviewed even claimed that 8 of her orang asli friends still drop school because of many reasons, but mainly because they are forced or wanted to help their families financially. And finally is limited access to the digital world. So during the pandemic, the digitalization of education, such as Google Classrooms, Google Meets, might seem like an open opportunity, a golden opportunity for students to receive education even in the comfort of their houses. However, the situation the orang asli is currently facing in the pandemic era has proven otherwise. To clarify, they missed out almost completely on the digitalization of education, as most of them don't even have gadgets. And even if they do, they have very limited access to the internet due to the poor internet coverage in their areas. So because of this, they cannot communicate with their friends during the pandemic. And now, when Malaysia has entered the endemic state, they feel outcasted and distant from their friends, resulting in them losing their motivation to go to school. So this graph shows that the majority of our asli students agree that their communication barrier with friends is widening. So as if this isn't alarming enough, their communication with teachers is also affected as they can't communicate with the teachers during the pandemic. So consequently, even though now physical learning is reinstated, they tend to keep quiet in class. So to illustrate, this graph shows more than half of orang asli students agree that they find communicating with their teachers challenging. On top of that, the digitalization of education also brings another huge problem for orang asli students, and that is learning loss. So this graph right here demonstrates the number of students who struggles to catch up with their studies. And as we can see, a big portion of them stated that they are struggling to make up for the learning loss they had. This problem is further aggravated as it is impossible for their teachers to reteach the topics that were taught online. Hence, their academic performance lags far behind compared to other endings in their school.
So now, based on the challenges that my friend has presented just now, what can be done in order to save the education of this marginalized community? So there are some solutions emerging from our findings. These efforts are suggested based on our interviews with orang asli students as well as their teachers. So the first being Post-War Education Center 2.0. Post-War Education Center was founded by Valerie Johnston, and its purpose is to provide free educational programs to all our asli students of any age. This center is located in Kampung Post-War Perak. However, we believe that by utilizing this idea of free tuition and extra classes, government or even non-government organization can establish an education center similar like Post-War in our area, Gombak. This effort may help the orang asli understand their studies better and catching up with their studies and hence achieving better academic results. So second is the schools in Gombak that have orang asli students should create a buddy system where orang asli students could pair up with another student that is their classmate. Through this system, they can repair their relationship with friends and their partner could also help them in their studies simultaneously.
Ladies and gentlemen, talk about killing two birds with one stone. Moreover, studying with a partner is also proven to be more effective than studying in a big group. This is because orang asli students tend to feel left out in big discussion groups. Last but not least, we have outreach programs where we invite successful orang asli to spread awareness on the importance of education. This is to encourage them to further their studies and reduce the dropout rate of orang asli students during the transition from Standard 6 to Form 1. Not only that, we also propose the idea of school collaborations where orang asli could have another students or teachers from other schools to help them in their studies. This can help them achieving better results and thus raise their academic achievement. So as for the summary, we intentionally leave this slide blank so I can have all of your attention while I'm verbally explaining the summary. So all in all, orang asli has always been in the position to face obstacles in achieving quality education. So the first point is that lack of access to digital education. Due to limited devices and weak internet connections, orang asli are refrained from having proper communication with their teachers and friends. Hence, when our country entered into the endemic era, the students have communication barrier with their peers as well as teachers. Second point is the struggle to make up for the learning loss they had. And the third point is that in order to provide assistance for this marginalized community, we suggested that an education center similar like Poso is established in our area Gombak. Ladies and gentlemen, with the education improvement of this marginalized community, Sustainable Development Goals 4 under target 4.5, which is ensure equal access to education for the indigenous people, can be achieved. So that marks the end of our presentation. We hope you learned something new. Thank you.
Thank you very much, presenter, for your beneficial talk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the question and answer session. Let's hear some exciting questions from the audiences. For sure, only 2 questions are allowed.
Test. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Adani Fasya from Sekolah Menengah Sains Bukit Dato. Thank you for your presentation. However, I can help but notice you only use English once in your questionnaire. However, most of them are typed out in Bahasa Melayu. Then I am interested to know, why do you use Bahasa Melayu in most of your questionnaire? Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful question. So ladies and gentlemen, please bear in mind that our questionnaire is targeted for orang asli students and they use Bahasa as their first language. So we want to ensure that they understand our questionnaire thoroughly so that we can get accurate data. So we do not use English because English since English is their second language, it is not heavily used in their daily life. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So my name is Azrul Haziq Hakim bin Azmi from Sekolah Menengah Sains Utama Jiwa. So that's a really good presentation just now, but I want to ask one question. So how did the pandemic affected the communication skills of orang asli student? Thank you.
Okay, so how did the pandemic affected the communication skills of orang asli? Because this is because when the pandemic hit Malaysia, they missed out on communication skills development opportunities. So that's why they are stunted. Yes, their skills are stunted. They cannot grow because in order for communication skills to grow, to develop, they need to communicate with their peers. However, they cannot do that during the pandemic because of the lockdown. So that's why their communication skills lags far behind.
Thank you so much for your questions. Therefore, our Q&A session has
ended. Can I
I'm
ask
sorry.
a question? All right, thank you very much. Okay, this is supposed to be the last question. So my question is that based on the study that you have done and also the findings that you found, how does this study help to grow yourself, right, as a student, as well as a Malaysian or even an individual towards the issue that you have explored? How does that help you to grow as a person or a student as well as a Malaysian citizen?
So, as an SBP student, even though our school or even any other school is not really heavily populated with orang asli students, through this study, we have learned that some of the that orang asli face some difficulties in their life that we do not face. So, by conducting this research, we hope to find that more people acknowledge the significance of this particular community and more people try to help them engage in academic in terms of academic and social activities. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. Therefore, our Q&A session has ended. Thanks a lot for your consideration. Peace be upon to all of you and a very beautiful afternoon. I will heartily welcome all the judges, teachers, and fellow participants of 10 fully residential schools International Symposium 2022. To begin with, I am respectfully want to introduce our honorable judges for today's session. Our chief judge, Associate Professor Dr. Haliza Harun, Senior Lecturer of University Science Islam Malaysia. The second judge is Miss Salmia Hani binti Sidik from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor, and third judge is Miss Shafizah binti Sharif from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Aisyah Rohani, and I, Ahmad Amirul Mukmin bin Ahmad Fazilah from Tapah Science School, while the exact timekeepers are Ahmad Daniel bin Zafrul Azmi and Muhammad Adam Aiman bin Faizal. Both of them are from Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak. Without further ado, allow me to read all the rules. First and foremost, each team should consist of presenters and technical assistants. Then, the presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned to the team. Next, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. For your information, the bell will rung once at the 9 minutes and twice at the 10 minutes. And lastly, a question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation. And now, I would like to welcome Sekolah Menengah Sains Sultan Muhammad Jiwa to deliver their thoughts. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay.
privileged and underprivileged societies, we're all facing the same problems, especially children's to yes. That's right. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Privileged and underprivileged societies, especially we are all facing the same problem, especially for children in order to show themselves in learning process. Before we get deeper into the scope, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. I bid to all judges, teachers, and fellow audiences. My name is Nurhani Zulaika binti Kamar Hafiz.
And my name is Nur Adrana Badrisha binti Rosli.
We are from Sekolah Menengah Sains Sultan Muhammad Jiwa, standing in front of here to presenting to you guys our slide presentations under sub-teams Averting a Lost COVID Generation.
Combat inequality in education due to digital gap towards students. So, first of all, let us get to know what is digital gap. Digital gap is the unequal access to digital technologies such as smartphones, tablets, and the internet. The digital gap effect can be measured based on an individual's amount of um, time spent on the internet and the skill of conducting activity online. So, for example, the digital gap often means a lack of access to broadband internet access and wireless technologies such as Wi-Fi. And globally, in developing countries, the digital gap includes a lack of access to digital technologies and internet services. Okay, so how does digital gap affect education? Well, first of all, children are struggling to gain access to vital educational tools. Meanwhile, teachers, on the other hand, are often under-equipped to prepare the resources their students need. Okay, and next, this is especially true in rural communities as they have limited internet access. And then next, undeserved communities in urban neighborhoods. They may have broadband, but they lack the speed and reliable connectivity to ensure all students and educators are able to use it at the same capacity. So this inequity resulting to the widening achievement gap between the students who does not have basic access to digital resources and those who are privileged to have it. Okay, so next is our problem statement. Digital gap worsening the COVID-19 era. So as we all know, during pandemic COVID-19 era, we almost all of the world systems of education have changed to online learning method. But this method can be challenging to underprivileged, marginalized, and disabled children, as they have limited accessibility and resources to online learning. But then, what happened to the children that live in the rural areas? Well, those children are neglected and also lost in education as they can't participate in class due to the lack of internet connection. Okay, so 52% of children in Sabah, Malaysia, do not have the access of the internet due to inadequate infrastructure. Okay, so next, our objective of proposal. Our first objective proposal is to overcome this digital gap problem among societies, especially to children, to undergo learning process through internet broadband coverage. And our second objective proposal is to reduce the digital gap problem in the rural areas so that the children who live there are not neglected, especially in education. And our last objective or proposal is to ensure Malaysia's world-class education through the implementation of
of ultra speed and wider internet coverage using 5G technologies.
So now, let's move on to the next point. Many projects involving the internet have had to be stopped or cancelled due to the low level of internet access in Malaysia. Problems such as these need to be given more focus by the government because internet usage nowadays are more widespread, whether it is for learning or work. Let's make it more detailed. What is 5G? 5G is the fifth generation of mobile network, which is a new global wireless standard after 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G networks. 5G enables a new kinds of network that is designed to connect virtually everyone and everything, including machines, objects, and devices. 5G can be significantly faster than 4G, delivering up to 20 gigabytes per second at peak data rates and 100 plus megabytes per second at average data rates. Also, 5G has more capacity and a unified platform that is more capable than 4G. How do you think 5G can help in education? 5G is all about delivering reliable, fast lightning speeds and increased data capacity on a massive scale. These benefits together can make a dramatic difference in digitally equipped classrooms and remote learning settings. For example, faster download speeds and easy transfer of large amount of data can allow children to collaborate digitally from their homes or even can be functional at school. On top of that, 5G can provide a cost-effective way to deliver a fiber-like internet connections wirelessly to institutions such as schools, addressing some of the last mile challenges in rural areas via fixed wireless access. Fixed wireless access enables extremely high-speed broadband in rural areas where fiber connections can be too cost prohibitive to establish. The implementation of 5G in rural areas and schools enhance Malaysia's education level and give more advanced experience in the way of learning. Part of the mixed reality such as AR, VR, and XR setting new standards for teaching and training. This illustrates that 5G has the potential to offer some of the most compelling and engaging innovations and educations. By the same point of view, augmented reality, virtual reality, and extended reality are propelling education into a more experiential dimension. About 5G connectivity, with its ultra-low latency and high bandwidth characteristics, enable teachers to make use of mixed realities applications across all areas in education spectrum, empowering them to create more. There's an advantage that we capture right here, such as mixed reality in education and training environment promotes deeper instinctual understanding the subject matter through headsets, visors, and sensors. More precise, teachers can explain complex and abstract concepts to students in an experientially rich environment. How mixed reality transforming education and training. Virtual classrooms can break the dependencies from having to cater for capacities of physical facilities and eliminates the risk associated with hazardous work environment. Mixed realities and tactile learning can also provide an more immersive and memorable experience, potentially resulting in a more streamlined training path. Implementation of 5G by the government, especially the Ministry of Education, will able to reduce the digital gap among children in Malaysia. Moreover, children can obtain numerous benefits from 5G technologies by recovering what they lost during the pandemic era. Children can able to gain more knowledge, to study and learn even without their educators' control. In conclusion, all children can undergo their learning process at equal. Furthermore, no more digital gap as education may incorporate. That's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, presenter, for your beneficial talk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the question and answer session. Let's hear some exciting questions from the audience. For sure, only 2 questions are allowed.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. I am Nur Farisha binti Mazlain from Sekolah Tun Fatimah. Thank you for the fascinating presentation. May I ask, which school is the focus in the study and how do you collect the data? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Allow me to answer your questions. Okay. About which school we focus, it's a general school for all the Malaysia because we know right, like during the pandemic, all schools need to overcome the online class. So we did it to all the school in Malaysia. And sorry to ask, what the other question?
The other question is how do you collect the data?
About we collect the data, we search in online and from based on our experience in our school. Yes.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I'm sorry to ask. This is based off my understanding of your presentation. So you are basically saying the usage of 5G data as the solution to the education gap. If I'm not mistaken, is it education gap?
Digital gap.
Digital gap of education among students. But as you can see, 4G data is still in large use in Malaysia instead of 5G data. 5G, although existed already in Malaysia, it is still not widely used in Malaysia. So how can you spread the usage of 5G data, which is considerably more expensive rather than 4G data? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for.
So thank you for your question just now. So we all know that 5G is currently so expensive to afford, but the government can afford it by taking some donation from the NGO and
like my friend said, government can take donation or based on my, I have seen an M-Star online official which Ahli Majlis Pemilihan Negara said, Michael Kang, he said to restore the economy, they need to bring back outside labor from other countries. Yes, because many sector in Malaysia like plantation and operation factories, we use outside labor. So if we don't have outside labor, then our economy cannot rise because we have less worker. Yes.
Therefore, our Q&A session has ended. Thank a lot for your consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we have come to the end part of our presentation. I would like to thank once again the presenters for an informative and fascinating talk and the audience for your active participation. Hopefully, the presentation will be beneficial for everyone. Thank you for your attention.